Okay, welcome. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to modify one of my favorite lures for small water environments like floating a river or large creeks. It's a tiny torpedo, and you know, a tiny torpedo by Heddon comes with it's small little prop bait, has a little prop on the end of it, but it comes with really bad hooks. And they're hard to sharpen. In fact, you can't hardly sharpen them, and they're pretty weak. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the hooks out on this, and I'm going to give the end hook, the hook on the rear, a dressed treble, and I'll show you how to do that. The tiny torpedoes are really great bait if you modify it just a little bit. I know a lot of people, some of my people that I fish with, have actually taken these in the original Zara spooks and drilled holes in them and put BBs in them and siliconed them shut and then painted over it and fished. I'm not going quite that far. These are very small, but I think a rattle would work very good in this, especially how you jerk it back to the kayak or to the boat or to the bank wherever you're fishing. But right now, the only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to change these hooks and put VMC round bend trebles on them. Red, and then give this one a feathered treble. The end result will make it look a lot like this one right here, which is one that I did yesterday, and one of my favorite top water baits for small bodies of water. So right now what we'll do is we'll open this. So you have just a little prop bait, but these hooks are just bad. You see, those hooks are there's no other way to put it, those hooks are just bad. But what you can do is you can unscrew these hooks. You have to be very careful because this little cover and this prop is going to come off, and you don't want to lose it. Just drop down, especially if you're working outside or somewhere like that. I am actually going to use these baits this afternoon on the river, and we'll make a video showing them this afternoon. And see, look there, I did exactly what I told you not to do. I dropped it, but it's unlucky I'm inside, so it won't be hard to find, but I'll find that in just a second. Now, how I open these up, you're going to have to bend this eyelet right here. You have to bend it open. So what I do, I take a pair of pliers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it down here on my vise, just bend it open like this. And it's going to be kind of, I don't know if you can better see it there, but I'm just going to take it and bend it open on a hard surface like so. You see, now I've got it bent so I can open and take this hook out. That hook's no good. Don't want that hook. Like I said, I'm going to put a dressed treble on the back, and this is the rear hook, so I'm going to show you how to dress the treble right now. Sure I've got the correct size hook. Now do you want to match them up? These are going to be size 6s. To dress the treble, you're going to need a fly tying vise, which is what I have right here. And make sure it's in there tight. You don't want it to move around. You don't want the bottom of your vise to move around. It's just aggravating when it does. You want to shake it, and see, that's pretty good and tight right there. Now the first thing that you do, you want to take your bobbin and your thread, and you're going to want to make like a bed of thread on this hook, on the shank. And what I mean by that is you want to give the feather something to stick down there onto when you and you're not tying it very thick here. Like I said, you're just giving yourself a base to work with right there. pull you down some extra. And find your pesky little scissors. Always hide under feathers. Take your scissors, clip your tag in. Some people put a little dab of cement on it right there. I don't find that that's necessary. I just do that basically at the end. Now, this is a clear bait. Okay, it's for clear water. So I want to keep. I don't want this to be a very loud trailer. I want it to be, feathery and have some action to it. But I don't want the colors to be very loud. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with my reflective material here. I'm going to put just a touch of red in it. And when I say touch of red, I mean a touch of red. I'm not even going to put a red feather in this one. A lot of times I like a red feather in a lot of my trailer hooks, like these that I've tied up. But for this clear one, I think it'd be a little overpowering. I just want a little touch of red, and that's it. And when I say touch of red, I'm counting out. I'm counting out like 4 strands of this right here. What you want to do, it helps to wet this. Put it in your mouth, wet it. You'll be glad you did. Didn't wet that quite enough. There, and then you're going to want to wrap this tight. It can be, this is the hardest part, is getting this thing started. And once it catches on there, you want to wrap about 5 times, real tight. Okay. Come down here and measure out how long you want to hang out from the hook. I don't want this to hang out too long. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to about right here and cut it. And you can always trim it up later. Then come back and cut your front end. Get rid of this. That's the only thing getting in the way. So I didn't cut it as good as I should have. There we go. Now you've got just a little bit of red flash that's hanging out right there, just the tiniest little bit. But like I said, I'm not really going for a loud, overpowering look on this one. So most of my stuff is going to be this variety and white feathers. So we'll take more of these, probably twice as many of these. Okay, like I said, there's only 5 of those, 4 or 5 of those. There's about 10 of these strands right here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wet them. And wet them just sticks them together so you can get the thread around them a lot easier. And then I'm going to wrap these the exact same way. If I can get this daggone thing to get out of the way. You don't want them to twist. If they twist, just unwrap it and start again. There you go. And then there we go. And then I want these to stick out the exact same length as my red ones here. So I'm going to clip these there. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go up here. You want to clip these as close to the shank of the hook on top as you can. This is going to help you wrapping them later. Now, like I said, with this one, I want it to be kind of subtle. So I'm going to take, these are hackle feathers, saddle hackle. And I'm not going to use the whole feather. I'm just going to use the very tip ends of them. Here's 2 small ones already. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these on this hook and kind of look at it, eyeball it, and measure it. I don't want it sticking out any further than that. Okay, so I see visually here what I got my finger on it, where I want the end of it to be on the shank of the hook, and I clip it. And another thing I do is I go by and I clip just a little bit of this, of the feathery part, right here and right there, to give that hook something to sit down onto. I mean, give it the thread some reason to catch when it sits down on the hook. Right here. Take it and wrap 1, 2, 3, 4. I want it to flare out like that. You don't want it to lay down on the hook. You want it to flare out. That's what's going to give it the action like this when you're working it through the water. And then here's my second feather. I'm only going to put about 4 feathers on this one, maybe 3, depending on how fluffy they are. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to measure out how I want it here. This is just a little long. So what I'm going to do is clip it there. slip into it here and here. Give me some room to work on the hook there. And then I'm going to go to the side of this one here. Like I said, you want the feather's going to do this, okay? See how it kind of curves? You want the curved in up on the hook shank, such as this, up on the hook shank. And then we'll just do the same thing. Now, I'm going to open my vise. I'm going to turn my hook. You know, you may have a vise that's a lot nicer than this one that rotates around, and that's good. And all you do then is just turn it and rotate it and go to the next, you know, between your next two points of your hook there, the next two shanks. Now I'm still just doing the exact same thing that I was. I see about what I want right here. I've got it in my hand. I clip it. And these feathers make a mess. You can see I've got a pretty good mess going on right here. It's fun. I've got it laid directly onto my shank of my hook, and I wrap it 5 times. Okay, keeping it tight the whole time. Very important. Keep it tight. I'm going to rotate my hook. I'm going to find another hackle feather, preferably a light one. And it's tore up. That's one thing you get with these feathers. The more you handle them, the worse shape they get in. But generally, when you put them on the hooks and they get wet a few times, they stay together pretty well. This will be my last one. Well, that worked out very nicely. Now, you don't want to go too deep down on the shank of that hook, wrapping it, because it's going to impede the action. Just go about 3/4 of the way down, and then keep the bobbin tight all the way up. You want pressure all the way up and down the shaft of this hook, the shank of this hook. And then I'm wrapping it until I can't see any white in there. Wrapping it until I can't see any white whatsoever. And I'm keeping it tight, as my dad would say, tighter than Dick's hat band, which is an old Tallapoosa County country colloquialism. And my vise is wanting to come. So tighten that back down there. Now, to make the whip finish, this is the most tricky part of this. You're going to want to pull enough of this down so you can wrap it around 2 fingers, cross it, okay? And then I always go back and take it with this hand. And then what you want to do, the top finger, you're going to want to wrap it around the eye of the hook. I go about 4 times. And see, I dropped it. If you drop it, that's okay. Just do it again, because the loop is not going to make until you pull it tight. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I dropped it again. This, like I said, this is the toughest part of this. There, I got it now. And then you want to take this back parallel with the hook, pull it tight. Oh, I dropped it. See, like I told you, now this is the hardest part of this, but eventually you'll get it. If you've got this wound tight enough, you don't really have to worry about it coming undone. We'll pull back to here. Let's just try wrapping it around 3 times. That's where I'm dropping it on the 3rd. One. See, there's no slack. I mean, there's you can't get slack in this stuff. There's like no stretch, so it can be aggravating. They make a whip finishing tool. One problem is that I'm trying to do this with my right hand here. I need to be doing it with my left over there. Let's see. And we've got it tight there. It tightened down. Now I generally want this up on the... That's perfect. Never mind, that's perfect. So, I clip that. Now, I'm going to want to take my Q-tip here. Actually, I'm going to use a clean Q-tip for this one. these little feathers off of this, make it look nice. This is your head cement, and this is what's going to lock this thread down onto the shank of that hook and not let it come unravel. Take your Q-tip, dab in here, and just work around your thread there. Make it coat real good. Just get it all in the crevices of that thread. This stuff dries pretty quickly. And one thing you're going to notice when you do this is it's going to turn your pretty red thread a kind of a milky color, milky off-white. So there's a good trick to that. I just take my paint pen here, shake it up. And this is an enamel, and I'm going to paint that once that dries. And that's going to harden it a little bit too, and plus it's going to make it a bright red, such as this. It's going to look like that, and it's going to give it another layer of protection. I fished these, and I don't have them come loose. Not very hard to do. Now, going back to my tiny torpedo here, got feathers all over it. I'm going to unscrew the front hook too, okay? Because like I said, I want to change these hooks. These hooks are terrible. You cannot sharpen these hooks enough. I've taken a file to them until you just had nubs there, and they never got sharp enough to really catch a fish. You can catch one on it, but it's just not ideal. You miss an awful lot of them. Your hookup ratio with these better hooks will go up phenomenally. I've been doing this with these for years. And look at there, I dropped another piece, but I saw where it went. That's why you have to be careful with those, because those little pieces. Now I'm not sure where my little blade went, the little propeller. I heard it hit a while ago, but I'll find it. And you do the same thing with this one. You're going to want to open the eyelet up. Let's just see how I'm doing this right here. Not quite that hard. You just put it on a hard surface and turning it. It's real simple. You don't want to break it. And really the pliers I have for this is a little too strong, but these are the ones I have on hand. You don't have to open it much, just barely get it open, and your hook comes right out. At which point, you take your new hooks, you put in there, and then to close it, you just do the opposite. You grab it right back the way it was, and you bend it back down and shut, like that. Hold it very tight in the pliers, it's going to help. See there, that's perfect. I put the clasp back on. I call it a clasp, I don't know why. It's a little guard like thing, and this points down like this. Imagine it as a bell over your hook. When you look at the bait, you think when you put it back on, you want to put it on upside down, but this goes as like a bell on your hook, because it just looks like it goes the other way when you're putting it back on. I'll take this and I'll just screw it back in there. Don't screw it all the way tight. Leave it about 2 rounds from all the way tight, because you want your hook to swing free. The top one, it doesn't matter so much. the back one you have got to leave a little loose. And it's not going to turn with the fish. But what it does is it helps that propeller to move. And then like this one helps the hook to swing a little free. Alright, see, that's a much better looking hook. And it's very similar to the size of the hook that you had, but I find these hooks they run a little large anyway. Now, if I can find my little propeller, excuse me while I look for it. There it is. It was in my lap the whole time. Here's the propeller. I want to bend this propeller out halfway between where it comes from the factory and straight. And what that does, that slows your bait down. It makes a little bit more racket on the water. It makes a lot more racket on the water. The more these hooks are bent backwards, the less resistance to the water that you have, the less racket on top of the water that you have. This river is a pretty noisy environment, and I'm throwing them in pools behind rocks and behind eddies and around grass beds, and I want to make some noise. I want the fish to say, "Oh, hey, what's that?" and then get a reaction bite from them. So I want it to be kind of noisy. Now, before I put my last hook on here, I'm going to take my paint pen here, and that's all you do. I'm going to take it out of the vise to do it. You just paint on top of the glue. It makes it look better, and like I said, it gives you a whole nother little layer of security from that coming loose, which I've never had them come loose. I've had fish pull out the feathers and destroy the feathers, and I've had feathers just wear out, but I put it on there pretty thick too. There we go. Now we got some paint on this thing. You can also take this as an opportunity to dress your lure up, if you want to add a dot or something like that. Generally on the clear ones, I leave them clear. On that colored one there, I did add a little red, but I don't want to paint on my clear baits for the clear water, because I think that kind of defeats the purpose of having a clear bait. You want something the fish doesn't get a good look at. He looks up and he looks through it. He sees something moving. He's not sure what it is. He just knows he's hungry. And fish are opportunistic feeders, so they're going to eat whatever comes along their way. If they're in that mode. So I'm trying to get them to grab that bait before they realize, hey, it's a tiny torpedo and it's not a minnow or something, or a little brim. And by the time they realize that they shouldn't have grabbed that, they're hooked and they're on the way to the kayak. I'm going to close this bait out like so. Good and shut. Now, my first step, put this back on. Remember, the bail goes toward the hook, like that. Now, your prop is going to point away from the bait. Your prop is going to point toward the hooks. So, I'll put my little prop on here. You're going to want to say Heddon tiny torpedo toward the bait. I'm just going to screw it back in. Remember, this is the one that's very important to keep loose. And it's not loose, isn't going to come out, but it's going to give that propeller room to move. Spin the propeller. It says perfect right there, which is a whole lot better looking bait than what we started with. And there you have it. That way you can take a cheap tiny torpedo, which is one of my all-time favorites for the river, and for other, for finesse topwater fishing in the lake. I can tell you another place these really shine is in the late spring around seawalls. If you're fishing in the lake in a bass tournament or something, a lot of people are overlooking the old tiny torpedo. They're throwing whopper ploppers, they're throwing buzz baits, they're throwing expensive Japanese lures. When this right here caught them 50 years ago, it'll catch them now. It's just a lot of people don't throw it. I've stayed with it, for years because of the river. But I like the bigger ones too. Cotton Cordell used to make a crazy shad. They still make it, but they don't make it like they used to because it used to have 2 props on it. And you can actually modify this and put another prop up here if you want to make it like the old crazy shad. And we have done that. But I find in the river this is generally all we need. Thank you. Let me know in the comments what you think. You're welcome to comment, email me, subscribe. I sell these right here, $3 a piece. If anybody wants any, you can email me. Tight lines. Happy fishing.